Hey guys, Basement Horrors here, and welcome to another installment of True Horror Stories. Today, as always, I'm going to be telling you another few horror stories that I found on the subreddit Let's Not Meet. So, let's begin. Number 1. This happened to my aunt when I was a kid, and it had major repercussions on how my mom and I dealt with our own safety when I became a teenager and started going out alone. We are from a small, peaceful town in northern Spain. The kind of town where you wouldn't think this would happen. My aunt was in her early 20s at the time and went to visit her mom. In my hometown, most people don't live in houses, but in apartment buildings. She rang the bell and her mom buzzed her in. Everything was business as usual. She waited for the elevator and got in. And right when she did, before she could even press any button, a man who had been hiding in the staircase suddenly rushed in with her. This all happened very quickly. As soon as the man rushed in, she was cornered by him. He pointed at her with a knife and told her not to scream, and she surely obliged. She managed to stay calm and just told him, "My mom is waiting for me. She buzzed me in and she knows I'm coming. If I take too long, she'll know something's up." The man didn't believe her until thankfully her mom realized something was up because it was taking longer than normal. Opened her flat's door and started calling her name. That's when the man freaked out and rushed out of the elevator, left the building, and my aunt made it home safely. Knowing this story, my mom always makes me call her when I'm walking home after a long night out, even if it's 4 in the morning, so she would know that if I took longer than 15 minutes after the call, something was wrong. And even though I have a copy of the keys and I always ring the bell, she buzzes me in when I come back home, even if it's that late. She'd rather stumble out of bed at 4 in the morning than have that happen to me. Number 2. So this happened to me outside of school around 2 years ago. It was 4 p.m. after school hours, as my friend, Marie, and I decided to stay behind and practice piano. We decided it was time for us to head back to my house and headed out the gate. We were almost to the gate that led us out of the school grounds when a man shouted to us, "Hey, could you help me with my car, please? It's broken down." Now, no one was around, as it was way after school hours, and the staff were still inside packing away or working. I can't remember his facial features too well, but he had dark skin and black hair, and with some scruffy stubble and mustache. He looked like a normal, everyday man. He had next to him a silver family car, and his door was open. Marie tried to pull me away after I'd frozen my spot, rooted to the ground. I was well aware of strangers and what could happen if you encountered the wrong person, but I have a sort of kind nature and wondered if this man really needed help. Again, Marie tried to pull me away, and I could understand that. She had a similar experience. She had a similar experience where her sister was almost kidnapped, so she knew not to trust strangers by cars. I remember her saying to me, "Don't trust him, whether he needs help or not. It's not worth taking the risk." By now, the man was pretty much begging for us to help him, saying he had a child, which was understandable as this was the nursery parking lot, represented by the pink, and that he needed to get home. My kind nature had me take a couple steps towards the man, despite the fact that I was a shaking mess. I could hardly breathe and couldn't calm myself down. I'd never felt more terrified, but I still stepped forward, so unsure of what I was going to do. The feelings that I had inside of me still confused me. I was basically having an internal war with myself. I was shaken to the core, yet I wanted to help the man. Eventually, I was so weak to my knees that just a single tug from my friend sent me out the gate. We stopped for a minute, Marie hugging me and reassuring me. I don't know why I was so frightened. Then I looked up and saw the silver family car driving away. That sent me into fits of sobs and shakes. We both walked home, phones at the ready to call the police if anything happened, but still shaking with the thought that we were almost kidnapped. That thing makes everything so much worse, however, is a student from the year above me claimed to have almost been kidnapped by a man of the same description. Dark skin, black hair, scruffy stubble, and mustache. However, not the same car. Could it have been the same man? The thought of what could have happened if I hadn't had Marie with me still scares me. What if I had walked up to the man? What if he just ran at me while I was rooted to the spot? I didn't report this to the police or to the school like the other student did. I didn't help, as they never found him. Just from the fact that it scares me. At the time, I didn't want to talk about it. I've only just now told my parents, and they've claimed I should have told the school. I wish I did. So, creepy guy with the silver family car, let's not meet ever again. Number 3. This story begins with me working as a day camp counselor. Things were going really well. The children loved me, the other counselors were fond of me, and I had a blast pretty much every day of the week. Plus, I was making good money. One day there was a new counselor, however, we'll call him Nick. For starters, Nick always looked a little bit off. He also seemed a bit familiar. Maybe he was a fellow patient of my orthodontist. I wasn't sure where I knew him from, if at all, but there was something strange about him, I could tell. I shrugged the notion off and continued working on my merry way, till one day he approached me and extended a hairy arm. "Hey there, name's Nick. Pleased to meet you." I neglectfully shook his hand and grimaced a bit. Of course, at the time, I certainly hoped he hadn't noticed. "You too. Anything I can do for you?" I replied. "I'm new here, and I was hoping you could show me the ropes," Nick said. "Yeah, for sure." So for the rest of the day, I served as Nick's personal tour guide, and we just hung out and talked. He was incredibly talkative and could not keep his mouth shut, as if he was scared of silence. I quickly grew annoyed with him and couldn't wait to go home that day. Well, I was in for a surprise, because when the end of the day finally came, Nick suggested that we hang out. I was fairly creeped out by Nick at this point and declined his invitation in a friendly manner by telling him I had to play soccer. "Oh, well, how about I come and watch you play? Then we can grab a bite to eat," he proposed. "Sorry, Nick. Today's really not good for me. I have to eat dinner out tonight at my grandma's," I said. Nick looked a bit disturbed, and I could practically see the pits of his eyes grow deeper. "How about I call up my family, and we all eat together at Tony's kitchen?" Clearly, Nick was set on hanging out with me, and I became increasingly freaked out. "Look, Nick, I appreciate your offers, but like I said, today simply isn't a good day." "How about another day, huh?" I replied. "Oh, come on. I had such big plans for us," Nick said. "Another day, man," I replied. Nick finally gave up for the moment being, and I finally got to go home. I went into my living room, kicked off my shoes, and turned on the TV, and fell asleep for a bit. I woke up to a knocking at the door, and figured it was probably my sister coming home from her friend's house. I got up and opened the door, and my jaw dropped at what I saw. Nick was just standing there with a creepy grin on his face and said, "Hey there, buddy. How was soccer?" I couldn't believe my eyes. How did he know where I lived, and why was he even here? I said, "Nick, I thought I told you we couldn't hang out today. I have to go eat dinner soon. You really should go." Nick clearly wasn't picking up on my verbal cues, because he then said, "Don't worry. I already called my mom, and she said I can come with you." I replied, "Nick, I don't think you understand. You're not allowed to come. Honestly, you're creeping me a little bit. You're creeping me out a little bit, man. Like we just met." Again, Nick's dark eyes stared into my soul as he slowly turned on and walked away. After I got home from dinner, my mom asked me to go outside and grab the mail. I ran down the stairs and out to the mailbox, and I swear I could feel something watching me. "Psst," I heard. Looked to my left. "Psst." I heard again. I looked to my right. Nothing. "Psst, over here, silly." Followed by creepy laughter. I looked up and literally have never been more scared in my life at what I saw. Nick was sitting in a tree, just staring down at me, like a demonic angel laughing like a maniac. I screamed and ran back inside and told my parents everything that had happened. Nick didn't show up again to camp ever, but a few days ago, I received a friend request from him on Facebook. Needless to say, I am not accepting that. So, Nick, I hope never to meet you again in the future. Number 4. My mom is a college professor, and tonight, she teaches in the evening once a week in person. She had a really creepy experience with a student. After telling me the experience, she started trying to justify it. I found it really scary and wanted to give her some advice. Apparently, there's a guy in our class who's failed it twice now. If he flunks one more time, he's out. He plagiarized on a paper he submitted this evening, and she deducted significant points for it. Several other students also plagiarized, and she said that if anyone had questions about avoiding this issue, to meet here after class to address them. He asked her to step into the hall as she and a few other students were packing to go. In the hall, instead of asking about plagiarism and grades, etc., like she expected, he asked her the following. Did you hear about that recent murder case here in town, where the three men bound that woman and beat her to death? Bear in mind that the course my mom teaches has no bearing on the subject at all. My mom said, yes, apparently this is a big local case. He said, do you know what happened to the men who did it? Did they catch them all? My mom didn't know. At this point, she told me she felt really unnerved. He said, do you know if the murder was sexual at all? Or, Mom said, I don't know, why are you asking? Apparently he replied, I was in the courthouse dealing with the legal issue the day the men were tried the other week, and I was just wondering if you knew it all. Then apparently he smiled at my mom and said, I bet you didn't expect me to ask you about that, did you? Good night. And then he left. My mom said the hair on the back of her head stood up when he smiled at her. She told me the story just tonight when she got home, and I freaked, thinking of this thread and how many creepy things happen every day. I told her to call her boyfriend, who's a lawyer and judge, and he, with jealousy issues, implied my mom may have been leading the student on. Really sick. My mom's in her 60s and a professional lady. My mom got off the phone and immediately started trying to rationalize it as him trying to shake her up, because he might be afraid of getting kicked out of school. If you fail the same class 3 times, you get kicked out, apparently. I don't understand how that would fit into what he said, or how it would make this appropriate. After talking to her empathetically, she agreed to contact his academic advisor tomorrow, and have the incident put to his file. But I really think that will do nothing, and that's not the correct person to whom to report something like this. She's had this student before, and says no creepy vibes at all till now. We googled him and found mugshots from March, but his crime wasn't listed. And weirdly, we found his infant daughter died this past year. But it probably is just a sad thing, and has nothing to do with his criminal legal issues. Anyway, my question is, does anyone else think this is legit? Aside from the pepper spray, etc. What do you think my mom needs to do? It's worrying me she's already started rationalizing this incident, which to me is really horrifying. Thoughts? Number 5. I've written on here a few times now, and I thought I'd share another encounter that happened to me when I was 15 to 16. I'm now 23, by the way, and a female. My cousin and I, who lived with me at this point, she was 14 to 15 at the time, had started smoking. This was not something that would have gone down well with my parents, so naturally we used to sneak around, as well as steal off my parents because we were little. My cousin was a small blonde, who, even at 22, still gets dirty looks when she takes her 4-month-old baby out, because she looked 16 at most. I was always tall and looked older, but it was very clear that we were young. One day, we decided to head into this empty block of land we discovered that was fenced off in a street that my parents never went down. We had had peculiar things happen in the past on that street, more encounters with crazy people. This particular day, we were sitting in the grass, enjoying our cigarettes and having a chat. We stood up to leave when we saw a man pull out of his driveway in some sort of FWD and stop next to us. Hello, how are you? He asked. Something along those lines. He was probably in his late 30s at the least. Not sure on what nationality. His skin was dark olive, his hair and eyes dark brown, and he was small built from what I could see. At this age, I thought he was big and bad. At this age, I thought I was big and bad. Also extremely protective of my softly spoken and shy cousin. Good, I responded to him. Get in my car. I'll give you a lift. He yelled to us cheerily. No thanks, we're all right, I replied quickly, still smiling. He said he'd buy us some drinks, which I assumed he meant alcoholic. Still, I stayed polite but firm, and kept saying no thank you. He kept insisting that we get in the car, and he'd drive us around and buy drinks, and I kept refusing. After a few minutes of back and forth talking, he smiled slightly, dropped as he had a more frustrated tone in his voice, said, "Come on, just get in the car." He kept repeating this. I felt rage bubble in the pit of my stomach. "No." "Come on," he said. "No." I looked him dead in the eye. "Why not?" he said, honestly looking confused as to why he refused such an offer. "Screw off, we're 12. I yelled at the top of my lungs. "What?" he said quickly. I repeated myself, and he quickly drove off towards the end of the street. My cousin grabbed my arm in terror as she realized he was making a U-turn. "He's coming back," she cried. I told her if he dared get out of the car, I'd beat him up. I genuinely believed that, and told her we should just go and ignore him. I told her not to run, as I didn't know him, and I didn't want him to know that we were scared. So we just walked home while I gave him an icy glare until he was out of sight. We pulled back into his driveway, and that was the end of it. I don't believe we ever saw him again. I never called the police because it never occurred to me to do so. Plus, I wasn't going to tell my parents because they would have locked us inside, and we wouldn't have ever been allowed to go out again. Hey guys, Basement Horrors. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. I know I enjoyed them. If you did enjoy them, please be sure to leave a like and a comment telling me what you guys want to see on my channel. Also, if you have any original horror stories or creepypastas or artwork you'd like featured on the channel, send them in to basementhorrors@gmail.com. And if you have any questions for me for a potential Q&A in the future, leave those in the comments as well. That's it for this video, guys. So until next time, have a horrific day.